Hello, everyone. My name is Christopher. I use ze, them, and he, him pronouns.
And my name is Judah. I use they/them.
And we've got a whole fucking bunch of people with us today, and we'll go around each room and introduce name and pronouns of everyone.
Hi, my name's Christine. I use they, them pronouns.
Hi, my name's JQ. You can use she, her pronouns for me.
Hello, my name's Lily. You can use any pronouns.
And my name's Kelly, and I use she, her pronouns.
Oh my gosh, we got a whole crew. Happy late Valentine's Day, everybody. To the one person who's in a relationship in this room, and then everybody else, and me, an aromantic person. We've truly got a diversity with us today. But today's episode is going to be all about, how do I do like a sexy radio voice? Like, all about love. And then like a sexy song starts playing. But we're just going to be telling our heartwarming and horrifying queer love stories today, and having a little conversation about them, and hopefully get some catharsis. It's like playing Rosebud Thorn during OutWrite meetings. It's going to be a good time. And as you can see, we brought the flag from the office, so it looks a little bit cooler behind us.
We need to get another flag.
Yeah, we need to buy another one for the other side.
It feels so empty on this side, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, we look so sad.
Yeah, it's because you guys have the better outfits, so we didn't give you the flag.
Thank you.
We've got like the Valentine's Day themed people, and then I'm wearing a purple shirt, which is the most Valentine's Day item of clothing I own.
It's not navy blue. Congratulations. I'm wearing a Final Boy shirt. Going the wrong way. Final Boy shirt for anyone who's not a horror fan. It's cool, I promise. And then Min looks good as always. Who wants to start? We're already kind of warmed up.
Can I start?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Because this is my moment to brag about my partner, who I love very much.
Go on.
So I've been dating him for the last 2.5 years, just about. We started dating during the pandemic, which is a really interesting dynamic because we started our relationship during the pandemic. But yeah, before that, I struggled a lot with dating. It was hard. Being non-binary and being bisexual, like that just put a target on your back. Like that was just, it's difficult having to explain that to people on like Tinder or Bumble or Hinge. It was madness. And don't even get me started on the people who just like didn't understand my identities. Like they would ask some really like, pointed questions and you're just like, okay. Or like they would match with you just to debate with you.
Oh my God.
That's crazy.
Yeah, like it was bad. It was just a bad time. I don't seek out bi for bi relationships. I wrote a whole article about this, right?
Shout out to Judah's articles.
About bi for bi relationships?
Yes, I wrote an article talking about how, so it was my own personal experiences with dating within the queer community and how difficult that kind of was. I didn't seek out a bi for bi relationship initially. Like that kind of happened to be like by coincidence.
Hey.
No pun intended. That happened to be by coincidence. And let me emphasize, this is my personal experience. I don't want people to get it twisted. And I'm saying everyone needs to seek out like a bi for bi relationship.
You are bisexual. You have a duty to society.
But I mean, like it's just a completely different dynamic, you know, because for the first time, I was comfortable with talking about my bisexuality. I was comfortable with being bisexual. I think when I was first, you know, dating around, that was something that I was really scared to talk about, right? Like that was something that like I didn't know how everyone was gonna take it, you know, like especially when I was like, you know, if I'm dating like a guy, it's like, oh, I don't know how they're going to take it when I say, oh my God, that girl's so hot. You know what I mean? Like that was like, or like even like the vice versa, right? Like I didn't know if I was going to like hang out with or go on a date with a girl and it'd be like, oh, I think that guy's so hot. And then be like, oh, you're not lesbian? Like, it's just like, that was always like kind of like a fear of mine. And like, it even like, and it did get to that point where like I had people on Tinder just like argue with me. Like, are you sure you're not straight? Are you sure you're not looking for attention? Like, it's
Yeah,
honestly,
you're the one who's going to convince me. Really, really good debate skills you got there on
Yeah.
Tinder.com.
So, like, and that's not to say that, like, obviously, like, I think that was just, it's pretty much a minority in the community. Like, I'm not gonna, like, sit here and, like, demonize, like, people who are non-bisexual or, like,
I think we can-
monosexual.
I think we can demonize Tinder a little bit, though.
Oh, yeah, no, Tinder's gross. Tinder for sure is gross.
Dating app. Yeah.
Yeah, but when I entered my relationship with my current partner, it was just, like, it felt good. You know, because for the first time I could, you know, express my bisexuality. I can be okay. I can be comfortable because my partner just happened to be bisexual.
It's like being T for T. You're like, oh,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
you get it, finally.
Exactly. And, you know, like, my partner has been amazing. He's, like, this really amazing dude. He, like, you know, he's been, you know, with me for the last 2.5 years. He's been kind of like my rock, like my, like, he holds me steady. Like,
Oh.
it's nice to be kind of like in that relationship. And I joke around with him all the time. Like, we have our celebrity pass list, which is really funny. Like, I joke with him all the time about that. Because, like, obviously, like, I tell him all the time, like, you know, like, it's like, I would never have a chance. Like, with these people are, like, famous. And, like, we would, like, list off people in our celebrity pass list. Or, like, he'll name a celebrity and I'll just jokingly be like, oh, yeah, that person's on my celebrity pass list. But, yeah, it's really nice to kind of have that dynamic. And, like I said, like, not everyone has to seek out a bi for bi relationship or a T for T relationship. I just think that the dynamics are a lot more comfier once you're with somebody that kind of understands what you're going through.
Mhm.
And also, our Valentine's Day date was really nice.
Yeah.
Sorry, let me brag about that for a second because I had so much fun.
Yeah, rub it in, Judah. Just
Like, oh
really
my
get
God.
it in there.
Sorry, I'm about to get nuked.
Hey, Kelly, what was your New Year's resolution?
Oh,
Thanks for asking, JQ. My New Year's resolution was to get a date by Valentine's Day.
Hey, you know what?
How's it going?
That's so mean.
Well, actually, I might have gotten a date by Valentine's.
Oh my god!
Oh.
But I don't know if it's a date or not. It's
Just
that
call
kind
it a
of
date.
thing.
Nope.
It's a date.
Call
I
it for
can
the
say
sake of
now.
the
I
New
can
Year
say
gods.
it's a date.
Yes.
You know how
Yeah.
it is.
Anyways,
Is it a
Judah.
friend thing or a not friend?
Are we
thing?
lesbians?
That's
You
how
know what?
The
lesbians
eternal
are.
question.
That's how lesbians are. Sorry, Judah,
so I
continue.
was gonna say, like, you know what? That's actually really interesting because for the longest time, me and my boyfriend did not define our relationship, and it was always like that kind of like scary thing of like, what are we? What are we doing here? Obviously, we couldn't like.
We've been kissing for like a long time. Like,
No, you'd be surprised. So we shared our first kiss
Oh.
2 weeks before the pandemic like fully set in.
Oh no!
Oh.
Yeah, you can imagine how awful that was to like go from like being like, oh my god, like you could imagine just like that, like going from like being kissed and then like for like the first time in a long time, and then
And then there was
fucking-
another long time coming.
yeah, and then there was another like we did not see each other. I think it took a full like 9 months
Oh.
for us to
Oh.
physically like see each other again. Yeah. That being said, we did have an in-person Valentine's date this year.
Yay.
Last year he was in
That was so
DC during the winter quarter, so we didn't have
Wow.
we didn't have an
SMH.
in-person date. We did do a nice phone call though, but you know, it's not the same as like being in person. But yeah, we had an in-person Valentine's Day date. We cooked dinner, or he cooked me dinner. He does the cooking. I do not. Reversing gender roles a little bit.
Two bisexuals reversing gender roles.
Literally.
Nice.
Literally. But anyway, so he cooked dinner. We watched The Proposal with Sandra Bullock and Ryan Reynolds.
Mhm.
Really interesting
good
movie.
movie.
Yeah, no, I fuck with it. I think that's the most heterosexual movie that I fuck with. Like, do I wish Sandra Bullock was a lesbian in that film? A little bit. Just a little bit. But it's okay. It's because she has like a backstory where I'm like, oh, are you? You know, like, are you?
Oh,
Hoping she can see you through the screen.
Yeah, no,
Is it
because
true?
like she is kicked out of her house. right? In like her backstory is that she was kicked out of her home in Canada. She has no family.
Suspicion number one.
She moved to New York.
Suspicion number two.
That's gay.
I'm like,
Every
are you
person who
fucking
lives in New York
kidding me?
is gay. It's true.
I'm like, so you were kicked out of your home. You moved to New York.
What do you want to do? Theater?
You don't date. You don't date men because you're too busy with your job.
Oh my
come
God!
on.
Too busy for my job at the Broadway.
No, she's a book. I think she's a book editor.
Oh my God!
come
That's
on.
even worse. No.
Like, it's just like, I was just like, oh, well, I mean, it is the proposal. Ryan Reynolds is like the other character, and he does a fine job in it. My favorite part was probably Betty White in that movie.
Rip Betty White.
Oh yeah, rest in peace, Queen. Anyways, so we watched the proposal. We baked cookies. We shared a bottle of prosecco and a bottle of wine.
Ooh.
We made it a little bit fancy.
A little bit fancy.
Oh, that fancy
Yeah.
bubbles.
White
Yeah.
wine or red wine?
We did. I don't know if it's classified. We did
The
not do
bisexual
rosé.
equivalent of wine is rosé.
There's I don't know if any of you seen Schitt's Creek. That's like the metaphor for
yeah.
David's pansexuality, where he's like,
rosé.
I'm a white wine person and a red wine person, but also sometimes I like to get a little bit of rosé.
Which is just red wine, isn't it?
I don't
Rosé?
think so.
Isn't it?
I
Like
don't
it's
think
just like
so.
the skins are different.
No,
Is it?
No, I don't
drink
think
alcohol.
So.
I don't know.
I think they're different. Just like I think rosé is a little bit sweeter. I think red wine's a little bit like depending
Darker.
on obvious.
Well, in flavor,
Yeah.
or whatever the sommeliers say.
But yeah, no, we were listening to music while cooking and baking. It was like really nice.
That's so sweet.
I know.
Does
Sorry.
anyone have something terrible that they want to share? In contrast,
Oh.
just to really rub it. No, that's so lovely. That's the thing too, because there's a lot of people bitter about Valentine's Day for valid reasons. But celebrate your friends who have loving relationships.
Me
who
and
are
my
happy.
boyfriend argued about Valentine's Day. We like playfully argued about it because I was like, capitalism kind of popped off with Valentine's Day.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of into this.
The pink and red, the hearts. Like I'm like, come on.
Come on.
on.
Commercialized love. That's what it already was. We can just slap on some candy.
Now we can admit it.
Now we can admit it. Capitalism took out our true form of commercialized love.
Yeah, no, like capitalism truly like.
Trader Joe's was wild. I went there. Because we had a little OutWrite social on actual Valentine's Day. Little Palantines. And I went to Trader Joe's to get some candies an hour before. And every single person, it was packed. Every single person was holding a bouquet. And I'm like, you last minute fuckers, it's 5 p.m. What are you doing?
5 p.m.
Oh my god.
Oh my God. Well, I have a story that I wasn't originally going to share, but then I shared it with Kelly today.
It's really funny.
Hey. So hope he's not listening to this. He's definitely not, but oh my God. Oh God. I'm not even going to think about it. But so there was this guy who, so for context, I'm aromantic, but this was, I guess, before I realized that. And I guess now, after I realized that, it still makes my heart hurt, but that's okay. I was listening to, if anybody's on TikTok, there's a song trending that has a metaphor related to this story. Ceilings by Lizzie McAlpine, I think her name is. But yeah, you get it. So I knew this guy from the beginning of when I moved to Northern California, which was the 3rd grade, because he was friends with one of my close friends, and we met at her birthday party or something like that. And those friends you have if you've lived in a place for a long time, you have people that you've known for a long time, but you don't necessarily actively hang out, but you consider yourselves friends.
Yeah.
So that was our dynamic. And it would be oh my God, I haven't seen you in forever and all this stuff. And we had this joke / I don't even know what to fucking call it, but I'm so tiny and he's muscular from doing fucking martial arts.
Okay, Chris says these are tiny. What Chris means is that he's
light,
6'3" but skinny.
Yeah, but 100
Yeah, I
pounds.
was say, Chris, I think
Tiny,
Chris is by far the tallest person making this recording.
tiny in mass, I guess. But he would put his arm out and I would hang from it like a sloth and he could pick me up. I was like a dumbbell or whatever. I don't know how exercising works, but so we were in high school. I had a terrible relationship, arguably worse than his, but he also had a relationship that wasn't going well, and he was planning on breaking up with his girlfriend, and I had just ended my shitty relationship happily. And since our last names are so close, mine starts with I and his starts with K, we were like next to each other in the graduation line. So we would like go to like hang out after graduation practice, and he would like drive me home, which Kelly and I were talking about is like the most intimate experience you can have in high school, is driving another person home. And then one day it was like the last practice before the actual day. And he like drove me home, and we were like sitting in the car in front of my house. And at one point we were like talking about, like relationships and stuff. And I just went, well, if you ever realize you're gay, you know where I live. And then I left the car and went into my house, and he stayed outside of my house for like 10, 15 minutes. And then I haven't seen him since. He goes to Cornell now. But the line that reminded me of it, I was listening. I was in the fucking Access van going to class, listening to this song, and I started tearing up thinking about it. I was like, damn, Chris, you have not seen this man in 4 years. Get over it. But the line in the song is like, she's imagining like being in the car with this guy, and she leaves, and she says it comes out when I go to leave the car, like she's leaving to never see him again, and then he pulls her back in and they kiss. So I was like, well, that didn't happen, but it made me think of it.
What if you didn't kiss?
What if you? what if we remade this song? You know those TikTok things are like, what if we made this song into a different thing, and then it's just objectively worse? That's what this is. What if I did leave the car and he didn't go after me, and then we never saw each other again?
I think it always is kind of heartbreaking, though, and you do have those kinds of like moments, and you don't really take advantage of those moments. Like,
you're like, I can't lean over and kiss you right now. You're straight.
Like, honestly, like,
I hope Sarah isn't listening to this. That'd be so awkward. Oh
I honestly think that, like, especially for a lot of like queer relationships, it's hard to make the first move because you never know how somebody is gonna like react. Yeah. And then you also at the same time too, you also just like, it's also nerve-wracking to kind of build up that courage too, to actually like do something about it.
Yeah. And sometimes it takes a while to like realize that that's what you're experiencing. Because like, I wouldn't say I'm like, I was like romantically attracted to him per se. But like, I don't know, I still feel something. Yeah. When I think about it. And I'm like,
not the emotions.
Not the emotions.
I just think it's
fella,
like
is it gay to have emotions towards another man? Oh, a little bit. It's a little bit gay.
I have something to say about this.
Kelly has something to say.
So earlier, when Chris and I were talking about emotional moments in the car in high school, I had, so I was telling him about my girlfriend in high school. I would drive her home every day, and it was definitely an intricate ritual. But like, it took me on the topic of it being so hard in queer relationships to know like when to make your move, because it's just such unknown territory. I liked her for like 2 years before I said anything. And then even when we were together, we actually never kissed or anything, even though I wanted to the whole time. It was like, it always just felt like such, like uncertain territory. And like you look back and you always wish that, kind of like that car moment, like when you were leaving or something, you actually made your move. But it's like you can't go back in the past and do it now. So
I think I waited like 7 months to tell my boyfriend
7 months
to tell him that I love him. We waited 7 months. Like I waited 7 months to do that because it was like you don't know. You can only know your own true feelings on somebody. You never know the other person's. And like, I don't know. I also think that like a struggle too is kind of like wondering. This is gonna sound really depressing. Is like wondering if you're worthy of that love.
Yeah.
Oh no!
Like,
what's that line from Perks of Being a Wallflower? You accept the love that you think you deserve.
God.
Paul Rudd.
No.
Yeah.
Chris.
No, that song, Ceilings by Lizzie Alpine reminds me of the scene where she's got her arms out in the truck
Oh, and she's
in
just
Perks of Being a
exhausted.
Wallflower, and it's like, oh, Manny Pixic Dream Girl. Manny Pixic. Manny Pixic.
Manny
Whatever.
Petty Dream Girl.
Manny Petty. Emma Watson. But yeah.
Yeah, I think like a huge struggle too is kind of like, and I don't believe in that thing like you need to like love yourself before you can love anybody else.
No.
Like that's so silly. But I also but I keep saying but. I also think that there's kind of like that feeling of not being worthy enough for somebody else's love. I felt that for a long time. For a long time, I felt that I was unworthy of somebody like him in my life.
And now he's been in it for 2.5 years.
Yeah, he's been in it for 2.5 years. I'm like, I don't know why you're still here.
But let's make cookies.
Yeah, let's make cookies and stuff. I always have some of those cute moments too where I like wake up in the morning and like nothing's been processed yet, but then I remember I have a boyfriend and it brings like the hugest smile on my face.
Oh.
Sorry. I didn't mean to detract. I was kind of more focusing on the fact that like I think during those
You don't
moments
need to apologize. It's okay.
during those like moments of like extreme intimacy, like it's just so hard to make that move because there's so many things going on like in the background. But yeah.
Romance is... You
It's
guys
so-
are fucked. It's crazy.
Okay.
I'm like, before you begin, it's so funny because me and my roommate, we got randomly paired freshman year in the gender inclusive housing, and we're both on the aromantic spectrum. You know, there's like the cliche that you fall in love with your roommate in like movies, but it's funny because that's never going to happen. But we are like, now we're best friends and stuff. But like whenever we hear of people like with relationship troubles, we're like, damn, that sucks. We're going to go watch a movie together. See you later.
I also think that there's too much emphasis on like romantic love.
Oh, yeah.
Like don't
Oh,
get me
yeah.
wrong, like
Ooh, tune
I
into our
love-
aromantic awareness
like
week episode
don't
next
get
week.
me wrong, I love my boyfriend. Like I'm not aromantic, but like at the same time, like I find that there's an intimacy with like my friends.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, my siblings. You know, there are things that like we share together that's like not the same as being romantic love, but it's love. You know, like it's just not, you know.
Yeah. Homogenormativity, which was coined in the 70s, talks about our the societal norm towards marriage as the end goal, usually in a heterosexual, cisgender, monogamous situation.
Well,
And it like controls everything. Sorry, I keep cutting you
yeah.
off.
No, it's cool because I keep trying to cut you off.
Hey, I'm the editor-in-chief. I can cut you off all I want.
Okay, I've been like coming up with like new points to say like the whole time everyone's been talking. Because okay, point number one, I feel like as someone who struggles a lot with anxiety, I have to very actively like remind myself that I don't care what people are thinking. But the thing is with love, like I very actively care. I care a lot. And
I mean, you
it's
kind of have
good to care.
Yeah.
But it's also like I have these two competing impulses where one of them
Right.
is like interact with the world normally, and one of them is like sometimes people make you feel not normal, and that's like cool.
Sometimes they're butterflies and they live in your body for like a while. There's an ecosystem in your stomach right now. So there's nothing you can do about
There
it.
is though. I also love my gut bacteria.
Shout out to your gut bacteria. Gut bacteria, a normative love is the most important.
Oh, and then I also feel like being queer, like I already have to question norms of like what love is supposed to look like. So it makes it maybe easier that I've taken that first step already to figure out what kind of relationships I want, even if they're not like normative, which is really nice. I really like that. I can sort of, it feels very freeing. Like, I don't know, it feels very freeing to remember that if I don't want to have a romantic relationship with a man, I don't have to.
Woo! Yeah!
Dude, that makes me so happy. I love being gay. Like,
Yes, please.
Thank you. I like sometimes I have nightmares about like being forced to get married to a man.
Oh, no.
And then kind of like what Judah was saying. I
actually.
wake up and I'm like, oh, thank goodness. Thank goodness that doesn't have to happen.
Yeah, good thing. It's so funny when people are like, I was born in the wrong generation. Well, that's wrong for a multitude of reasons, but number one, I would like to be gay. Thank you.
My favorite trope in like movies is like two girl best friends, and they're like, if you were a guy, I would kiss you.
You're a fucking
Kiss each
you're a
other.
lesbian.
Just
Oh my
do
god,
it.
us watching what's called But I'm a Cheerleader.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
that movie was so good.
That would be so good. Recommend to
So
anyone.
good.
It's on Showtime. I'm just like, oh my gosh. I love. That's all I have to say. I was gonna make a more coherent point, but that's it. I do. I mean, I am alienated from it a lot. Alienated from a lot. But I don't know. Like even just listening to that song, or like listening to. I was talking to an old friend who was used to be an OutWrite, who's also on the aromantic spectrum in some way, and he was like, "How do you feel about like all songs being about love?" And I was like, it kind of feels like role playing a little bit, where you're like listening to a really, like the really good love songs that like make you feel a million things, or like put you into a situation that you've literally never been in, and you're like, that's so me.
Listen,
Like that's me every day.
I listen to Mitski, who is canonically known for being like for writing like these heartbreaking songs about not being loved or like being taken. That's never happened to me.
But it's like, Mitski, I feel you
I'm
for
like,
100%.
I sometimes joke with my boyfriend. I'm like, I need you to break up with me so that way I can like feel the full experiences of this. Like, I think when she released Laurel Hell, I remember being like, I need you to break up with me so that way just
for like a second.
for like
so it hits.
an hour or two, so I can listen to this album all the way through and feel everything.
Yeah, it's not good when you can relate to Motion Sickness by Phoebe Bridgers. Yeah, music, it's so weird how music has such like that effect, because it's like the lyrics themselves are never really that complex, but like they bring something to mind. Like, oh my god, so embarrassing. I have like people make like playlist for ships.
Yep.
Like ship, like
Very
queer
familiar
ships.
with
Yeah,
this
and
practice.
I'm like, yeah, that's a Nick and Troy song for sure. And it's like, those people aren't real, Chris. And also, you don't know what romance is. So how would you know? But yeah, it's great. Does anyone else have a
I love a
story?
good ship playlist.
A good ship
Yeah.
playlist. Housefire by, I don't even know what it's called, but it's like, that literally just describes the show. That's fucking crazy. How did you guys know that?
Yeah, I guess like speaking on like not knowing what romance is, I like
The
have
queer
been
experience.
talking to my therapist about like my experience and like questions about my sexuality and like my gender. And like I've always hesitated dating because like I never wanted to fall within like the gender roles that like my family has put me in, being in like a really fundamental Christian family. And so I think like I was so afraid of being like that classical Christian submissive woman that like I was afraid of like getting into the dating sphere and being caught up in that and like feeling the pressure to be that obligation. And so, but I'm not sure. But then I also have these feelings where I'm like, am I like, I gender fluid, and like, do I want to be a man or do I want to be a woman? Am I both? Am I non-binary? And it's just kind of all like a big mess. And so my therapist basically prescribed me dating. And she's like, no more thinking about it. Go do the dating and then find yourself with dating. This is the key to learning about your sexuality and gender identity. And so she told me, and I was like, date who? Like, where? And she told me to basically download a bunch of dating apps and like create a profile. And I'm
Does
like,
she have her license? Did you check?
I know. I'm like,
Has she ever
It
been
is-
on a dating app?
she
she, like,
says
Has
that
she
she
ever
has
dated? Period.
so much. She says she has so much experience dating, like too much
Okay.
experience.
But I feel
how
like-
old is she though?
She's like in her late 30s, early
Okay.
40s.
Okay.
I feel
a
like
little better.
if you have a lot of experience dating but zero experience on dating apps, you feel like dating apps are way better than they are because you think they're like actually dating people, but they're
I'm
not.
gonna sound like a complete boomer right now.
Ooh,
Dating
go.
apps are the worst. Like
They
I
are.
Boomer
honestly
alert.
think, like
Same. I hate
no.
them.
So I met my boyfriend the non-online way.
The meat space way.
We met at a fundraiser for Bernie Sanders. Yeah, we met at a fundraiser for Bernie Sanders. He was actually my upstairs neighbor because we were in the dorms. He was my upstairs neighbor.
Was it a Bruin Dems party?
No, it was not a BDEMS party. It was
Okay.
a YDSA party. YDSA fundraiser for Bernie Sanders.
Because I was like, I was at that Bruin Democrats party, and my
was not a
my
B-Dems party.
RA was the bartender.
But he was my upstairs neighbor. We had met that October previously, but we kind of forgot about each other. And then that when we saw each other, he recognized me. He was like, "Hey, I know you," and I was like, "I don't know you."
But you're actually my soulmate. That's crazy. I didn't know.
No, literally, that's literally what it was. But also, like, I did not seek out finding somebody that night. I'm gonna be real honest with you. I had bombed a midterm, so I needed.
Happy midterm season.
No, I don't condone this. Do not go drinking after a midterm. After you, don't.
And this was this freshman year?
Drink,
Yeah, it's freshman
drink
year.
responsibly.
Drink responsibly.
And also when you're over the age of 21. Says Jake, who's 18.
Over the
I
age
drink
of
so-
21. I was 21.
I drink
when
water.
When I drank at that Bernie Sanders fundraiser, which is weird because I'm 22 now. Oh, wow, I
The cops
stayed
can't catch
21
you.
for 3 years.
That's crazy.
So crazy.
Anyways, so like we met, like I said, we met the organic way. And I will say that I had weird experiences dating on dating apps.
Sorry.
And like,
we met without pesticides.
it's just,
Non-GMO.
I feel like it's,
Wait, no, but honestly, I agree so much with like the fact that like just the without dating apps, like meeting someone first in person, like leads to so much more of a natural relationship. And also like, I think as like someone who's like Demi, it was like honestly really hard to like discern what type of, what actually is like romantic and what is like platonic love. And also, I think like that wouldn't have been possible without like having my first relationship like be formed like through having a friendship first that was established in person, and then like that was like the reason why we kind of like lasted for as long as we did, which was like 3 years. Over a lot of it being like away from each other because like of long distance. But I think like honestly, trying to use dating apps now is like such it makes me want to everything because it's so much harder than just knowing like how you feel about a person.
It's
like
so awkward.
no,
like,
it actually is.
you're like, oh, I know your 3 top interests from your bio.
The thing is, I don't like people enough for dating apps. Dating apps assume that you like most people, but I am like a mean introvert.
no, I think everyone actually hates each other on dating apps, and they're just like that's why everyone's too shy to make the first move. Like that's
they're
why.
too shy to make a first move, or they bully you if you're bisexual. That's the
I have
two.
that problem too. Like, I've tried dating apps for so long, but it's like I don't like anyone on here.
The only people
Yeah.
I've matched with was another disabled person who wanted a friend, and then a guy who was into
Aw.
killer clowns from outer space. And
Okay.
and I just go, I like your clown picture, and he's like, I like your clown picture, and then I never talk to him again.
ouch.
Which is the most
Bonding through
transgender
interest.
fucking way to
Oh
meet
my
somebody.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Does bonding through interests actually work? I'm convinced it's a scam. Like they honestly, the only reason why they have you list those things on your profile is to make people seem more like people and not actually foster connection.
No, people, I
Yeah,
just look
I
at that little hype box, not
I
gonna
think
lie.
dating apps are pretty much good for hookups. Like,
Yeah.
I honestly really think if you're not looking for anything serious, my ring.
So Lily, your therapist was like, you need to fuck right now. Please, I need you to do this.
Low key was like, she's like, you need experience in life, and I'm like, what kind of experience? Okay, yeah.
Also, I
no.
feel like that sets you up for like a little bit of trauma.
A little
You
bit.
need,
Yeah,
you
I
need
know,
experience
I know.
being bullied for your identity online.
Yes.
And then potentially in person. Go
Ooh.
to Rocco's.
Oh my gosh. No.
No, go to
Rocco's.
WeHo.
Wait,
So
what?
WeHo's a little bit pricey, West Hollywood. It's a little bit pricey, but you will find people there. WeHo's kind of nice because you could talk to people. I feel like it's a little bit. I will say it does get kind of packed, so definitely like wear your mask.
Don't get COVID before
Don't
you
get
fall in love.
COVID.
No.
But yeah, I feel like meeting people like in a more natural, organic setting is a lot better than like dating apps, because dating apps are such a hassle for no reason, like no reason whatsoever. I had one guy who invited me to his dorm, and I was like, "Oh, I don't
Yeah, I don't
know
really
if I
want to
wanna
fuck on
do
your twin
that.
bed. I'm not gonna lie.
And
I
he was
really.
like- He was like, we can smoke weed, and I was like, "Oh,
my
I
God.
don't think we're
we
gonna
can
do
set off the
that."
fire alarm at Hedrick.
And then,
Yeah, I was like,
that's who it was.
I don't think we're gonna do that. I did have some genuinely nice interactions with people on Tinder. Like, it wasn't so bad. I briefly dated a musician.
Oh.
Okay. He did the bass. He was
did
on
the bass.
tour. He was on tour with Chicano Batman, which is a band, for a while, and he was their bassist. But like it didn't end up working out, which is fine. And then I also had a really cute date with a girl who we like talked about video games the whole time.
Oh.
We kind of sat outside the study and we were like talking.
You're kind of
Yeah.
selling it now. Like, I'm like, wait,
But
Lily,
that
you
was
have
like,
such a growth of
but that
options.
was like two people out of like
Hundreds.
literally hundreds.
Why do they
hundreds.
make you pay to see who likes you? I really,
So wild.
I'm like
'cause
20
it's 'cause
people. Wow.
So
Capitalism.
capitalism.
I think so. There's a statistic that went out that like I think like over 60% of the population is isolated or feels feelings of isolation.
so sad.
So more and more people are like trying to find connection, and I think a lot of people are relying on romantic connection
Yeah.
instead
so you
of
pay
like
$60 a month to see who likes you
Yeah.
romantically.
I think like especially because of like the nuclear family, like we have this idea that getting married and going off on your own is like the end game and the only way to find connection in life, because we don't have communal living and we don't value friendships and like this patriarchal capitalist like society.
Which is why 50% of marriages end in divorce because you don't
Exactly.
actually like each other and you're not even friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think my sorry.
I'll say something after you.
Yeah, I think my fear of like dating within like friend groups is that I love friendship so much that I don't want to threaten the friendship to make the next move. And so there's been times where I'm like, okay, like I just happen to want you to be like, I happen to want you to have me as your favorite person in the world. But that means like, that's just bestie behavior, right? Okay. So,
Dude.
yeah. And so I just like, but I don't want to ruin the friendship by making a move, even if I'm like we're perfect, but like
Not to be a cis straight guy, but it's like, I really don't want to ruin our friendship, but I have something to tell you.
stop.
Dude, I really feel that though, because yeah, it's always like, for me, I feel like I never am interested in people before we're friends, but then I fall into the friend trap where it's like,
Yeah.
well, I love being friends, so
What
then
if-
why?
What if we were just girl best friends?
What if we were girl
Yeah,
best
you
friends and we
know.
kissed all
I
the
love
time?
being girl best friends.
Yes, the problem is I like to date people, but I also like to be girl best friends. And it's like, there are two wolves inside of me.
Yeah.
Both of them are lesbians.
No, it's so real. Being like
Yeah.
friends with someone is such like an intimate relationship as well. And like to lose that is like, oh, like I'd rather have them in my life.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
none of us are allowed to fall in love with each other. Now that's what we've decided.
Okay, now you're just doing
All of you.
foreshadowing,
I know,
Chris.
I'm the only. It's okay. I'm off the table for most of you, so I'll be fine.
Oh, so you're just sowing chaos among the rest of us.
Yourself.
Male
Like,
well, I'm gonna
privilege.
say I'm also off the table.
Yeah, Judy's
Yeah.
taken the table.
Sorry.
Literally, you're like, couldn't be me, but stay safe, guys.
Stay safe and don't fall in love.
So there was something I wanted to say about, but back when Lily was talking about how people aren't valuing friendships very much, and Judah was talking about how society focuses on romantic relationships. I wanted to say that I love platonic love so much, and lots of times, I mean, I haven't really dated very much, but sometimes I don't even feel the need to date at all, even though I am interested in it, because like I have
Come
some
to the
really
dark
good
side.
friends.
Come to the dark side, Kelly.
What?
Come over here to the aromantic side.
Okay, I might be on this arrow spectrum. I don't know.
Ayo, Aeroflux.
But, like,
Okay.
But okay, hear me out. But it's just like, you know, I have a really great best friend, and like we're not interested in each other romantically at all, but it's almost like we're kind of together because we kind of like have like enough love that like I'm not really like looking for love, if you know what I mean.
QPR.
Christopher's chanting QPR. It's a little
QPR.
bit like that.
QPR.
What's QPR?
It stands for
QPR?
It's
queer
queer
platonic
platonic
relationship.
relationship.
It's like
Oh.
okay, here's the
And-
thing. Here's to all the internet queers who make fun of aromantic people for saying queer platonic relationship. There's a difference between having a regular friend and thinking that you are fulfilled in your relationship with
Well,
someone in a platonic capacity.
People make fun of things all the time. Like I
Yeah,
think
people
people
are so
were trying.
mean.
I think people were trying to figure out a a gender neutral way of saying like partner, and somebody came up with like joyfriend, and I was like, oh, that's really cute, and then everyone on Twitter ruined it for me.
Everyone's like,
so mean online.
and I'm like,
I'm like, joyfriend is such a cute like
okay,
it's
somebody
adorable.
brings you joy. Accurate.
Yeah.
accurate.
Ideally.
Yeah, but yeah, QPRs are like, it's basically having what would out externally look like a romantic relationship, but you are not romantically interested in the other person.
Yeah, no, that's, I mean, I think we talked about it a little bit, but that was kind of like the explicit situation in high school almost, where like people thought we were dating.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean,
Oh my God,
definitely-
me and my roommate, Elliot, we were at Whole Foods and he tripped me with our little grocery cart, and a guy said, wow, you really did that to your boyfriend, didn't you? And we were like,
imagine you two dating. That's okay.
So weird to
It would-
think about.
If
oh
people
God.
don't confuse you for dating, is it really like a
A queer
bestie?
friendship, yeah.
Okay,
Dude,
literally
that
so
image
real
was-
now. Okay, I came out to my mom as a lesbian, and then like the day after, I forgot, and I was holding hands with my best friend, and I swear, like 100% of people at my church now think I'm dating her, and it's like, okay, I live like this now.
Dude, I had that exact same thing happen to me.
Was it also in church? Oh my God. I'm just like, it's fun to give, if you feel that a word describes what you're experiencing, like I wouldn't say, if I felt the way that you felt, Kelly, I'm like, best friend doesn't feel like enough when it can feel like it's emotionally replacing what a romantic relationship would be in your life. And that's like fine if you want a new word for it. And also queer platonic is a fun word. No straight people allowed.
There's also a lot of people who are in relationships like that. Like especially like in like there's like reports of like gay men and lesbian women being in those sorts of relationships because that's just and they're not romantically into each other.
Like even just like being someone's beard for 25 years. And they like, maybe they get into another relationship, but like you are bonded in a way that is nobody, like it's not, oh, we're besties. Like we were married for 25 years before like we realized that we were gay, and we still have that. It's like co-parenting, right? Like some people aren't married, but they parent children together. Like you don't, I'm not just your best friend if we're raising a kid together. You know what I mean? Like it's a little more than that.
I feel like there's like I feel like the English language is maybe not good at describing different kinds of relationships.
Yeah.
Well, I also think that a lot of people just aren't open to describing different types of relationships.
Also, people are haters who like to gatekeep.
Yeah, no, people are haters for real.
I'm like, why
I'm
are you?
such a label radical. I'm like, if a word makes you happy, it truly does not matter. People yell at you online.
I truly like as the resident neo pronoun user. If you identify as a rock, I don't give a fuck. But it's funny too because people will like put like neo and xeno genders as like specific word, like star gender, for example, right? Say someone identifies as that, say they're 13 on Instagram, they have it in their bio. People will make fun of them. But if an older non-binary person says, my gender feels like the stars, people are like, yeah, I totally feel that.
I want to say, as much as I demonized dating apps, I did find my first relationship, and we did go out on a date on literally Valentine's Day. So sometimes they work, sometimes they work.
Is this the person who I also coincidentally know?
What?
Is this the person who I also coincidentally know?
No.
Okay.
No, that's the relationship that was... Oh my God, it scared me away because they mentioned marriage once and I was terrified of it.
So Christine and I went to the same high school, and it turns out that I knew their partner, like, completely coincidentally. And they're like, yeah, I knew you. And I was like, how? How did you know me?
How did you know me? Like me and Kelly figuring out we both went to the same church.
We went to the same
went to
church in high school.
And oh my God, and we both know the same person.
Insanity.
It's crazy. But yeah, like with like gender is fucking it doesn't
True.
matter. If it's socially constructed, that means it can be literally anything and it doesn't matter.
I just don't think if it's not harming anyone in any like direct way, like then I don't see an issue with it. I definitely think that there's been some kind of like brain rot
Yes.
like about people like queer platonic relationships and like sexualities that people don't think are real, like demisexuality, like, or like I think there's still people who think that like aromanticness isn't real or asexuality isn't real, there's people who still think bisexuality isn't real or pansexuality
guys.
isn't real. And I'm just like,
when are we going to get over this?
I'm like, I cannot keep having the same conversation.
That's the thing, too. I really hate when people call it discourse, because discourse implies, like, intelligent, well-thought-out conversation.
Just keep calling it wank.
You guys are just mean. It's called bullying. The professional word used by every teen organization is bullying.
Especially when people, like, bully, like, younger queer kids. Like for using, like, neogender, or neopronouns, sorry. Like, for using neopronouns, and for, like, you know, using new terminology to describe what they're feeling. Like, people are so mean to kids online, and I'm like, this person's like 13.
You just wanted an excuse to be mean.
Literally.
You don't feel this way. You just want to be mean to people.
Yeah. Like,
consider a therapist. Maybe not one that recommends you dating apps, but a better one, potentially.
And, like,
all the people who cyberbully you on Tinder were actually recommended to use Tinder by their therapist.
And it sucks because I can't imagine, like, or I can because it's happened, but, like, I can't imagine the type of damage that's doing to, like, my psyche, right? Like, I can't imagine being so unloved by a community that was, like, that you thought was going to embrace you with, like, open arms. Like, it genuinely sucks. Like, it's, like, I don't know. I also think that, like, a lot of people just need professional mental help. Like, especially people that do bully children on the internet. I'm like, you need to seek therapy.
Well, you
need to, like, unpack that somewhere because this child is not hurting you. Like, I think you're just making yourself look bad.
You are 25. Not to be this guy, but are you bullying a minor right now? You are 25 years old. Stop that.
Yeah.
Stop.
Because I'm like, there are some times where we can do a call-in. Right.
I can't believe that I can't pull the I'm literally a minor card anymore.
Yeah, because you're literally 18 years old.
Like, I honestly think, like, I also think that, like, a lot of our culture is based on, like, carceral responses.
Oh, for real?
To things. Like
punitive.
Yeah, like, we're very, like, punitive. Like, we want to see people, like, you know, they step out of line and we're just like, we need to see you die. You know what I mean?
Like, you need to, like, do violence on their psyche if you can't restrain
Obviously,
them.
this is not, this does not apply to people like JKR, like Jeffree Star. That rhymed. I just want to clarify that, like, that's not, like, I'm not talking about, I'm not talking about bigots. You know what I mean? Like, those people need to be deplatformed.
Like, yeah.
But, like, I think that, like, so many of us, like, don't recognize that we need to start, like, being a little bit more sympathetic, empathetic to people's situations.
Yeah.
And especially, like, I still don't get why people bully queer kids on the internet.
Dude,
I like being mean to people.
Speaking of high school, I went to a birthday party, another fucking birthday party. I go to a lot of these, apparently. It's the only party that I go to. I was, like, invited to my friend's 18th birthday, and we were, like, all queer in some way. Like, one of them was ace, one was bi, and one was one of the other two trans guys who were in my, like, senior class. And we were just, like, eating cake, and then he goes, you know what I don't get? He, him, lesbians.
God damn it.
And we're like, we didn't ask, actually. That's really crazy that you bring that up.
Have you considered just understanding?
Yeah, and then the other I was very happy because my other friends who were at the table were like, maybe it doesn't matter and maybe they can use whatever they want. So I was like, hell yeah. Fuck yeah, Sabrina. Kill it.
Yeah.
But it's like, who, like, I don't have, you know how people, like, hate follow people or they'll hate watch stuff? I'm like, I don't have the energy. I would much rather be happy and watch something I enjoy.
There are so many things in, like, the real world that make me upset for good reasons. So I don't need to give myself... Wow, this is supposed to be the Valentine's Day episode.
Well, because I think it all goes back to the same thing. Like, I think a lot of people project their own... I think a lot of people do a lot of projection.
Yeah.
Like, especially on the internet.
Especially if they don't have any control over their own situation.
Right. Like, I've had to read so many bad takes about, like, bisexuals on the internet, and it's like a bisexual person talking about their own personal experience, and then everyone being like, well, you don't speak for this community, and you don't speak for that community.
It's like, yes,
and
I know!
Like, you know, that it's like there's a famous tweet that's like, you could be on Twitter and say, I like like pancakes, and somebody'd be like, well, what about waffles?
Like, why do you
Like,
hate
that's
waffles?
Oh, like that one person who was like, I like going out in my garden with
Oh
my
my
husband.
God.
And
Oh my
everyone was
God.
like, fuck you, fuck your husband. And like, she ended up being an asshole, but like, who cares?
like-
And originally we didn't know that. She likes to be outside.
Going out in her garden was not the thing that made her an asshole.
Yeah, like it's just like I think a lot of people just lack a kind of like empathy,
Compassion, yeah.
for like
Willingness
the
to
rest of
Accept
society.
that people are going to be different from them in ways they don't understand.
And a lot of people are just bitter. I had to like leave Twitter the other day because there was some I don't want to say the word discourse because that sounds really bad about
Wank.
Brianna Gay, and I had to leave Twitter because the way people were like attacking each other like over like I think it was over the hashtag, I think. And I don't want to get in the middle of that because that's not my like I don't want to like get into that. But the way that like people were attacking each other and like instead of having like an actual conversation about why like a different hashtag needed to be used, it was like people being like accusing each other of being like the worst people in the world. And I'm like, I need
It's like, in
everyone
the
to
end,
like
It's not that deep.
in the end, a 16-year-old got murdered. You guys need to fucking chill out and think about, you
Yeah.
know, the important part of that, which
because
is
it
a
was
16-year-old
I
got
think
murdered.
so the discourse was about the people in the UK using hashtag say her name for Brianna Gay
Oh,
because she
gotcha.
was being trigger
Being misgendered
warning
by the media.
content warning for transphobia. She was being misgendered by the media. Her death certificate has her dead name on it.
Oh, God.
It also has the wrong gender on it.
Ugh.
That's very upsetting, actually.
It's upset. So people were kind of like using that to bring attention, but I think a lot of people were also bringing up the point as well. Well, this was in the U.S. It's used in the context of Black women being killed by the police, and I don't want to get into like which
What is
side
right,
was correct because I don't think there is. I honestly don't know. I don't know enough to like make an opinion on it. But it was just like. I'm like a 16-year-old was murdered
For
like,
being trans.
for being
Yeah.
trans. Like we need to stop the semantics and actually like figure out what the fuck we're gonna do as a community. Like I was just like, and we could have attacked this from like a place of like compassion and being like, hey,
Yeah.
like I understand that, you know, we need to bring attention to the fact. And there were people who were doing that. Like they were like, we understand that we need to bring attention to the fact that Brianna, you know, Gay died.
But we
was
can use
brutally
different
murdered,
language.
but we can use different, like a different hashtag, or like we can use different language to talk about it. But there were other people who were just like really like vitriolic, and it was like they were waiting for that moment to just like attack each other. And I'm like, you guys need to like chill out. Like I had to log off because there was people who were victim blaming Brianna Gay.
Ugh.
They were saying, well, there were people who were arguing that like she was like privileged, which is okay. We can argue that she was white. She does have a different type of privilege, but that also doesn't detract from the fact that she was brutally murdered for being trans. There was people who were, there were people who were being racist, it was just all around bad. And I was like, we need to like figure out how to have more of these conversations with more compassion and more empathy for the fact that yes, this was a brutal murder of a trans girl. Yes, this was a brutal murder of a trans girl, and B, yes, we do need to figure out how do we do this? How do we talk about her murder without co-opting language from Black activists and organizers? But that was not happening. That conversation was not happening. It was just people being like, well, fuck you. And
Yeah.
yeah, like
And this like conversation kind of to bring it back to the topic for anyone who's maybe not understanding the connection, like I feel like a lot with activism, people mistake like people have different motivations for being an activist, right? And there's this I would say a general consensus that like if you are purely motivated out of anger, you will not get the results that you want because there's nothing you're fighting for. You are simply fighting against something.
Yeah.
So when you have like a true love for your community and a future that you're trying to get to, that that the power that comes from that is always going to be stronger than, like, it's like saying, you know, your love for Black people needs to be bigger than your hatred for cops. That sort of mentality.
Right.
And like your love for trans people needs to be stronger than your desire to want to punch a TERF. And I feel like
Than your desire to dunk on people online for using the wrong hashtag.
or people like the so-called like leftists or like whatever who make podcasts where they just
That's us.
argue with
Sorry,
where
we're the leftists.
we're the
podcast.
leftists of the podcast. But the people who like bring on conservatives to their show just to argue with them, and then the people who and then they feel good about debunking
like,
transphobia
my
when
whole
that
thing-
person's not going to change.
My
Yeah,
whole
it just
thing was like,
platforms
what does this, like, who does this help? Like, genuinely, like, having the conversation in this way where it feels like everyone is being, like, vitriolic towards each other. Like, how does that help anything? I feel like it makes things a lot worse because I also think a lot of people are angry
Mhm.
about Breonna Gay. And I think a lot of the there was like a thread of tweets, I got a lot of criticism. Like, a lot of that criticism came from a place of anger because they were angry that this 16-year-old was murdered. This trans child was murdered in cold blood because of her transness. And obviously, like, she's not the only trans person who's done that, right? I think last year was one of the deadliest years for trans people on record in the US. I don't know about
around
the UK.
around the world, it was like worse in like South
Oh,
America. I
really?
think it was
Oh,
like
geez.
330 total.
Yeah. So I think there are definitely ways that we should have this conversation, but we also need to understand that like the community is grieving. The way that we have been attacked, the way that our rights have been taken away to our own bodily autonomy and how we should transition, how we should be, you know, how we should be called, how like all of that's being taken away at such a fast rate that it's like I think a lot of people are angry and nobody knows what to do. It's unfortunate because nobody really knows like how do we go from here. But I also think like I don't think we can have a productive conversation without thinking about, you know, the love that we have for each other and the love that I sound a little preachy, but like I really don't. Twitter is just not a good place to have these conversations. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, like none of these places.
TikTok is even
These
worse.
places
honestly,
are
by
not
now.
really conducive for like nuance. Because I think there's a lot of nuance to
Well,
this conversation.
I feel like they're not even conducive for like compassion because
Oh, yeah.
compassion is not profitable.
That's true.
People are mean. I'm like, dude, TikTok comments like never go viral on TikTok. From someone who's gone viral on TikTok, never go viral on TikTok.
Oh no.
Everybody is mean all the
Yeah.
time, and I'm like, guys, because it's like, you know, there's always going to be the people like who shoved, and we should probably wrap up in a bit, but
Yeah.
like, I'm
Whatever.
thinking of like the actress who played Skylar White, Anna Gunn.
Mm-hmm.
There's always going to be the people who literally bully a real woman off of social media because they hate her character on a television show. That type of person is not me. Like, I personally cannot imagine doing that, but there are people who have that attitude and feel
Right.
like that's a thing that they are going to do and they want to do, and those are potentially the same people who leave those comments or who automatically react with hatred and bitterness. And it's like, there's no like profile for who those people are or anything like that, but like generally having a culture of love and acceptance and community, and, you know, feeling like other people have your back and that you have other people's back, like that's what's going to fix it, I feel like. Because there's just such, and maybe it's like United States individualism, I'm sure it is, but like everybody has had to fend for themselves, and the most successful movements and the way that we get out of true moments of oppression and genocide and these horrible things is with the power of the people that are around us and the love that we have for them.
Right.
So I guess that's the lesson.
Yeah, that's the lesson from this episode.
That's the lesson of this.
Yes. Love you all.
your community. Like, definitely, like, get more involved with, you know, community organizing, figure out the people around you. Because also, I think a huge part, and not to say that, like, I don't want to give bigots any credit and be like, well, they don't have to accept you, because that's not, like, true. But I also think, too, that sometimes people just genuinely don't know what's going on. They just genuinely, like, they've never been like, especially smaller towns, of course. Like the smaller you get, the more or less you're gonna find queer people in like smaller towns.
Well, I
That's
think the internet does very interesting things to that because
Because you're suddenly thrown into seeing everything.
yeah, into like a giant vat of people who assume that the way that they do things from how they were raised is like the normal / correct way.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I definitely think that just people need to get more involved in community organizing and figuring out like how to build genuine community. Because I think somebody's writing about that in the print, how you can't really build community through online spaces because it's so difficult. Which is like, I think there's obviously nuance there too. Like, obviously, I think there are online communities that build genuine like friendships and connection with each other, but definitely like in terms of like organizing and all of this other stuff, like we're so isolated. As Kelly said earlier, we're so isolated from each other. Or was it Lily?
I think it was Lily.
Lily, as Lily said earlier.
You were the one who was like, well, I met my boyfriend and then 2 weeks later the entire world went into lockdown. So like, I feel like you can also talk about isolation.
Well,
That's a good
like,
historical moment for it.
Isolation. I just think that like, so I don't know. For me, I just find that my better friendships, my better relationships have all been from like people that kind of share a mutual like love for each other.
Yeah.
Like, I love my friends. I told my friend the other day, I was like, you're my ride or die. Like, if you went to jail, I'm going to jail too. It's just like, I don't know. I just think that we do need to build a genuine connection with each other, and like we need to find more compassion for each other, you know?
And if you see an annoying gay child, leave them alone or become their friend.
Or be
Yeah.
nice. Yeah.
Like, or
Like,
become
oh my
like
God.
a mentor.
Like in
If
the
you don't
first
have anything nice to say, don't be
Literally.
mean to a child online.
the first OutWrite, and we can probably go out on this because it brings it back to OutWrite, but our first social, we had a rainbow party where everyone was dressed as a different color. And that was like, we had accepted 30 new people. We were the biggest we've ever been. And there were quite a few people who you could tell have never had a space where they can fully be themselves.
Yeah.
And they're loud and they're talking about how gay they are and all this stuff. And I'm just like, I am so fucking happy that we have created a space where those people can exist and they can have their first experiences with queerness surrounded by other queer people and know, you know, if they introduce that they use they, them pronouns for the first time, everyone's going to respect them and they're going to love them. And we should do that in queer spaces more. And yay, I'm glad for all of you.
Yeah.
Shout out to OutWrite for being the only group of people that I was not stressed to say that I changed my name to.
Yes! Woo!
Oh my
Yay!
God.
Snaps. Just sent me a message and I'm like, yeah, I can change that. No worries. But yeah, well, thank you everyone for listening. You can follow OutWrite on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Facebook at OutWrite Newsmag. You can also read our bi-weekly articles on our website, outrightnewsmag.org. We're going to be publishing an interview with Rio Romeo, who is a butch lesbian, non-binary singer-songwriter in the next few days, so get excited for that. And our new print is going to be coming out in a few weeks, which we'll talk about in our own dedicated episode later this quarter. But that's, oh, by the way, that's right, spelled W-R-I-T-E, because it's a pun. I have been Christopher.
And I've been Judah.
I have been JQ.
I've been Lily.
I've been Kelly.
And this has been Speak Out. We will see you next Thursday.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Late Valentine's.